This is Black and White and everything in between, where we talk about a variety of things that pique our interest and hopefully pique yours as well. I'm Thomas, and welcome to the podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back. Do you ever feel constantly misunderstood or like you're speaking a different language from everyone else around you? This is something I feel on a regular basis. There are days where I feel like I'm speaking perfectly English and the people I'm talking to just look at me like, "What are you talking about, dude? I don't understand a word you're saying." Which just makes me feel really misunderstood sometimes. I think part of it is, for me, is that I process information a lot differently than a lot of people. Like, I tend to be very literal, which sometimes I lose someone's joke or whatever. And, because I process things differently, I don't always understand what someone's saying to me right away. Because of this way I, process things, I also struggle to express my emotions, which is, being a big tough guy is not something like we always want to talk about, but I do. Like, I don't even understand myself emotionally well enough, let alone to be able to put those thoughts and feelings into words when I'm having a conversation with someone, which I'm sure can be aggravating for those who know and love me, want to see me open up, and I just can't. And when I do express my feelings, or if I don't, I express them a lot differently than a lot of people do, and it comes across sometimes like I just don't care, when really I care a lot, but I just don't show that outwardly very well. I'm not not always outwardly excited or emotional, and when I am, it tends to be very strong. But, when I'm not outwardly emotional like that, it makes a lot of things hard for people. For example, like when people want to buy me a gift, I think people think it's hard to buy me a gift because I don't like get super excited when I open a gift from someone, and so it just seems like I'm like, oh, another thing. But really, I'm also really content with just having my friends and family around too. So I'm just not always emotionally vested in gifts. But I was talking earlier about, kind of when I do show expressions, and this is the part where it's going to start to get harder for me to talk about. When I do show expressions, I tend to be more overboard. So like when I get angry, I really strong expression of anger. When I'm anxious, I show it really strongly. Sometimes even when I'm happy, it's kind of overboard. Surprises can be difficult because I don't know, the way I'm hardwired, just surprises can be hit or miss for me. Sometimes I'll enjoy it, and sometimes I'm annoyed because it's an inconvenience. But another way I express myself, or maybe a lack of expression, I don't know, is I'm rarely offended by people, but when I am, I can be really just deeply hurt and offended by it. And then like my personal mistakes when I screw up feel so much bigger to me. Maybe a lot of people feel like that and I just don't realize it. And that could be very well true, but I know that's what it's like for me. A mistake is just, oh, you're a horrible person, and how dare you ever make a mistake? Oh my goodness. But that kind of brings me to one of the last things I want to talk about, and as ever, this podcast can be short. It's just how they tend to be for me, but it's because I struggle to understand myself emotionally, and struggle to understand a lot of things about myself. It often I have a struggle with my faith. That's also not easy to admit because I want to walk around and be like, oh yeah, I never struggle with faith. I'm always on fire for Jesus, and Jesus is fantastic, and Jesus is amazing. And what he's done in dying on the cross for me is such an amazing gift, and I'm so thankful for it. But I often struggle with concepts of faith that are supposed to be simple. And probably a lot of people do. And if you relate to these things, please, comment about it, tell me about it. But like some of the simple things that I feel like in my head shouldn't be so hard end up being hard is like simply trusting Him. The Bible says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. This is something that should be easy, just give it to the Lord, but my brain can't always get there. It's frustrating because I want to just trust Him 100% and wholly, but my mind and my humanness gets in the way of that. I struggle with discerning the difference between being content, being obedient, like hard to discern between a call to obedience and restlessness, and it can be difficult for me to just kind of go with the flow where God's pushing me, and then obedience, I struggle with self-doubt, and I struggle with confidence that I'm hearing from the Lord correctly. And one of the biggest things is I struggle with, well, how's this going to affect my family? I shudder to think of how many opportunities I may have missed because I was too worried about these things. Another thing I struggle with is a calling. I know I'm called to take care of my family. I can say that 100%. But other areas, I struggle to know what I'm called to do in those areas. So I don't really understand, well, what is I'm supposed to do beyond caring for my family? And I struggle with seeing doors open for others where I had previously thought, that maybe I was called into those areas, and then God calls someone else to those. And I sit there like, well, what the heck is it you want me to do? And really, ultimately, He has a plan, and He's taking care of everything. So even if those moments aren't where I need to be, I know and I trust that He has some other thing for me to be doing. But in my humanness and error, it's difficult to sit there and watch and be like, well, but what am I supposed to do, God? And like the last thing is the concept of, taking His yoke upon us. Again, the Bible says, Jesus tells us to take His yoke upon us, for His yoke is easy and His burden is light. But in my head, I struggle with, what does that look like? And then, confusing the weight of my own personal convictions with the weight of His leading, and whether or not it's a personal conviction or I'm pulling against the yoke, not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And so these are just a lot of things I struggle with on a personal basis, on a faith basis. And I'm sure many of you do identify with it, but sometimes I just feel like an alien from another planet. Like, I'm the only one who feels like this, or I'm the only one who processes information like this, or I'm the only one who struggles with these things, because I look on the outside like we all do, and, well, they seem to have it all together, or whatever. But the truth is, they probably don't, or they have their own struggles. It's a constant reminder to myself that, you know what? You're probably not the only one like this. If you are an alien from another planet, there's other aliens around you that feel the same way. We're not in this alone. And of course, even if we are, we always have Jesus. And we can always bring these things to Him, and maybe we got to bring them to Him for 20 years, and we'll eventually feel the weight of that burden lift. But, we can't give up on Christ, because He didn't give up on us, and He doesn't give up on us. So if you ever feel like this and you can relate to these things, hey, let me know. Leave a comment. You can even send me a message, whatever. I'd love to hear about it. And let me know, because I know I can't be the only person who feels like this. Hey, thanks for listening, and until next time.
If you like this podcast, give us a review and leave a comment. We would love to hear your suggestions as it would help us improve the show. If you're listening on social media and want to help us out, share it to your feed so we can get the word out. Also, if you enjoyed what you heard, you might be interested in our blog, bloggingblackandwhite.wordpress.com. Link in the description.